First of all, I want to again thank you for your faith, coming to church. I also want to mention some questions we're coming about, asking about Father Michael O'Connor. He has taken just a little bit personal time to spend some time with brother priest in prayer. He's going to be back Wednesday. He's well, he's happy, and he's just a wonderful priest, and he just needs time to pray with his brother priest. So everything is wonderful. And also, I was thinking about my homily yesterday about fasting. I mentioned a little bit yesterday, the day before. It occurred to me that fasting is found in the Bible. What do you think the Ten Commandments are about? First part is praising God. The last part is what we should fast from. When I give homilies, sometimes I like to personalize it and give little stories that's had an impact on me. You know, I was retired now, and my previous parish is a nice-sized parish with a school. So like most churches and schools, you have to have fundraisers to keep it going. So every year we had a fundraiser, the ending of January, when it was basically the coldest time, and we had a cook-off. So we would plan for a cook-off, and we also had a 5K race for the school. So we had to organize it where the vendors and the cooks would come in, set up, while they're on the setup side. The track where the adults and kids ran blocked them from coming to set up, so they had to get to set up about 4:35 in the morning so that everybody could be ready for the race at 7:30. Once the race is done, then the whole place opens up. So it's always a time when I was anxious to have it successful. So I'd wake up about 4:30, put on my hat, put on my heavy coat, put on some gloves, and go out and with a flashlight direct where vendors and the cooks should go, set up their tents with them, move their equipment with them, and just make sure everything was ready to go. And it was a joy to be there with the guys and listen to everybody talking and chit-chatting a bit. And then I went to one of the tents, and one of the tents, the guys were saying, well, where's the priest? This is his stuff. He should be here. I'm like, I don't know where he's at. So I continued and they were visiting people, so they didn't know who I was. So I went about helping tent to tent, chit-chat with them and encouraging them, really, really excited to get everything going. So then finally we had moving some equipment, bringing other supplies, the cups and spoons and so forth. So then at the same tent, somebody started complaining and criticizing. And I just looked at him and I said, why do you have to complain and criticize? Would you like it if somebody complained and criticized about you? Why do we have to do it always about somebody else? He looked at me with daggers and went, hey. And I went about helping somebody else. Then the parishioner who was organizing the cook-off, about 7:30 called everybody for prayer. So he called everybody for prayer, and then so everybody came close by. And then he said, Father, you ready to lead us in prayer? Took off my hat, and I started doing the prayer. You should have seen that man's face. He looked at me, I looked at him, and I just smiled. He smiled at me. And I wanted to say, instead of complaining and criticizing, how about we encourage and succeed and achieve together? In many ways, that's what today's homily is about. Because can you imagine Jesus coming down from the mountain, and he's seeing his apostles, they're arguing about something. But he can't figure out what it is until he asks a question, and they were afraid to tell him. Jesus says, if you want to be first, serve others. What keeps us from serving others is often the instinct of survival and competition, quote unquote, natural law. Competition is not just found in sports, but it's always been around since the beginning of creation. If you think about it, Adam and Eve entered into a competition with God by the serpent's temptation, and they thought that they would become a god themselves if they participated. Their children, Cain and Abel, because of jealousy, competed and Cain ended up killing his brother Abel. Such stories abound throughout the Old Testament, with fights and battles among the neighboring tribes and peoples, and even among the Hebrew people themselves. In today's gospel, the New Testament, believe it or not, competition happens right in front of Jesus himself. We hear that the disciples are competing among themselves to who is the greatest among them. Jesus does not get pulled into the drama, needing to act like some sort of referee. Instead, he ends the pettiness by telling them the greater of you has to be the one who serves the most. Later, we know that Jesus will show them what true leadership service looks like as he washes their feet at the Last Supper. Taking a child, Jesus placed it in their midst and said to them, "Take care of my sheep. Take care of my people." Pope Francis said to the priests, the shepherds should smell of the sheep so that people can sense the priest is not just concerned with his own congregation, but is also a fisher of men and women. Jesus and Pope Francis calls not just priests, but all believers, us, that we are to care for the sheep for one another. Love God and love neighbor. My brothers and sisters, competition is not just found in the Old Testament and the New Testament, but today in everyday life. It is found at work, among friends, at home, where we compare ourselves, within our own family members, and even in all churches. If we want to bring others to God, we have to walk our talk. Instead of putting others down, can we help them out? Because often when we put somebody else down, it's because we want to try to make ourselves feel good. Why can't we help people achieve and succeed in Christ Jesus? We need to be reminded that the way we treat others may be the only Bible that a person may read today. A true leader should be willing to do the lowest job to set an example for the others to follow. We need to show others the way, the truth, and the life. A writer once said, "You can't lead anyone further than you have gone yourself." You cannot lead anyone any further than you have gone yourself. It begs the question, how willing are we to serve rather than to be served by others? Jesus says, if you want to be first, serve others. I remember that man in my opening story because he started coming to church.